Okay, welcome everybody. My natural clock wants to say good morning, but I have to get that out of my mindset because I know that probably most of you, it's not morning where you are. So welcome to our curriculum overview for the Master of Public Health program at the Brown School. We are so excited to have you here. Some of us have been chatting privately through the first session earlier and saying that hearing or meeting you virtually has given us kind of a really much needed boost to this morning. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your interest in the Brown School and particularly the MPH program. My name is Angela Hobson. I use she, her pronouns. And I have the great pleasure and honor of serving as the Associate Dean for Public Health at the Brown School. And we'll be leading this Master of Public Health Curriculum overview today. And I'm going to hand it over to a couple of my colleagues who will be joining me in this presentation. So Smriti, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thanks, Angela. And hi, everybody. My name is Smriti Bajracharya. I use she, her pronouns. And I manage the Master of Public Health program at Brown School. It's really good to have you all here and welcome. Angela, do you want me to pass it on or should I give it back to you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I will pass it on to Audrey.
Awesome. Good morning. My name is Audrey Coolman. I help in the Office of Field Education with the practicum for the Masters of Public Health students. I'm really excited to get to talk to you all a little bit more. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about what practicum is with my co-lead Sunghei, who I'm going to pass off to.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sunghei Han, pronouns he, her, hers. I am field faculty at the Brown School. I'm going to supporting your journey to the practicum, your journey at the Brown School.
Great, thank you, Sunghei. And we also have a couple of colleagues from admissions here as well. And one other person that I want to point out to you who won't be giving this presentation, but is a very integral part of our team in the MPH program is Jonesy Johnson. She's joining us. She is the administrative coordinator for the public health programs. And if you choose the Brown School, you will get plenty of opportunities to interact with Jonesy here as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And any questions that you have, if you want to put them in the chat, and we will monitor the chat as we go along, and we might be able to answer some of those questions as we move along. Otherwise, we have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end as well. So a little bit of overview about our program. Our mission at the Brown School, as all of you know, we are a school of social work with programs in social work, public health, and social policy. And our mission is to engage multidisciplinary faculty, staff, and students to create a better and more equitable society through leading rigorous science, transformative education, and authentic partnerships. And sometimes we get asked, why do we do public health, social work, and social policy professionals? Why do we do all of this under one roof? And we really feel that the Brown School is unique and that it can really advance education and research in these three areas. We have a lot of great thought partnerships, both in our curriculum and in our research, and also our service to the university, to the community, and to partners outside of the university. And I think our colleague, Betta Sanders Thompson, describes this really well. And she says, if we as a society have disparities in income and education, we will have disparities in health. People can't begin behind and just miraculously catch up, barring something extraordinary. Through teaching and research, I want to make the extraordinary possible. And I think she sums that up really well. We know that there are a lot of economic, racial, other social and health disparities. And when we have programs such as public health, social work, and social policy under one roof, we really can come together to think through some of those big social problems and how we can address those. So we'll talk a little bit about how our curriculum in public health is designed to be different, or at least designed to address some of those social inequities. One thing that we really like to focus here at the Brown School is on the transdisciplinary nature of public health. And so what we mean by that, And there is a session tomorrow on transdisciplinary education and research. But what we mean by that is that how do we take public health and work with other fields to really think through wicked social problems and come up with novel solutions to address those problems. And our faculty research is really focused in this area, and we also want our students thinking in this way as well. So all of our students take 2 transdisciplinary problem-solving courses, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into more of the specifics about our curriculum. We have a health equity focus, and we know that, in public health, we really have been focusing on health equity, especially maybe in the last decade more so than in previous decades. And we know that there are some very vast health disparities. We can think about this for all social aspects, right? Health disparities that are gender-based, that are race-based, that are really identity-based. And so what we want to do is have a health equity focus on those problems. So how do we address the problems? How do we provide solutions, interventions, programs, et cetera, that get people the access to the services that they need that really we can achieve health equity. Evidence-based, so there are kind of 2 things that we think about with this. Evidence-based is in that we really try to teach courses and teach our students how to take evidence-based or evidence, to use that to really make the best decisions based on what we know is the best available evidence in these different areas in public health. And how do we create programs and services and interventions that are based on the best available evidence? So we try to really incorporate that into our classroom. And another way we mean evidence-based is that we do a lot of training on what are some of the most evidence-based methods for adult learning in the classroom, and enhance the student experience in the learning environment here as well. Applied research. So what we mean by that is that faculty are doing their research out in the field, right? We're not lab-based scientists, although that's critically important, but our faculty are doing applied research out in the field, and then they use that to inform their teaching practices. So for instance, if you are taking a course with Laura Iannotti on global hunger and undernutrition, you will learn that that body of knowledge through the research that she is doing in places like Malawi, Kenya, Haiti, and Ecuador, as one example of how we bring applied research into the classroom. And then one last thing is our skill labs. We'll talk a little bit more about these when we get more into the specifics of the curriculum, but our skill labs are short courses that really are designed to help build skills in particular areas. So we have skill labs that are in data management software like R and Stata and SAS, and things like GIS, geographical information systems, data visualization. And then we have other skill labs that are more, practice skills like grant writing, leading and managing teams and people, project and program management. And those are all really great additions to the curriculum that you're getting in your full coursework, is taking these short courses to build these particular skills. Okay. Our specializations in public health, they all have a STEM designation. We have 6 specializations. There's the generalist track, and I'm actually the chair of that specialization, and I always like to refer to this as the choose your own adventure specialization, where you are really choosing from competencies and courses in the other specializations to tailor your education to what is of most interest for you. Our other specializations are epidemiology and biostatistics, global health, health policy analysis, mental and behavioral health, and urban design. We also have 2 optional certificates. One is in violence and injury prevention, and our newest one is in artificial intelligence and big data analytics. We have several dual degree programs at the Brown School, so you can do a dual degree in public health and social work, or a dual degree in public health and social policy. And you may all have applied to the Brown School as public health, but if you are thinking about adding either of these 2 degrees, you can still do that and apply within your first year at the Brown School to add one of these other degrees as a dual degree student. And then we also have a handful of joint degrees, public health and anthropology. So those who are pursuing a PhD in anthropology will join the Brown School to do a master's of public health. We have a joint degree with architecture, with business administration, law, medicine, and occupational therapy. And we really welcome these joint degree students to the program because it really is another wonderful opportunity for some cross learning from those other disciplines and how public health can really enhance what they're doing in those other degree areas as well. Okay, we get a lot of questions about our tuition structure. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. So the MPH, whoops, I advanced too fast. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Okay, so the annual cost for MPH tuition at the Brown School is $40,590. And that's about $20,295 per semester. Student health insurance is also part of your annual cost, overall annual costs. The amount shown here reflects the 2021 to 2022 insurance rate. The new rates for the academic year 2022 to 2023 will be announced later this summer. So we'll have that information for you all later this summer. Domestic students have the option to waive the graduate health insurance enrollment, but international students are required to enroll. The health and wellness fee and the student activity fee are also charged on an annual basis. So I know we get a lot of questions about that. If you have questions about your specific financial situation, we really encourage you to sign up for a time to speak with our Assistant Director of Financial Services, Dom Sanheinrich, who is just an absolutely wonderful person and so knowledgeable in this area and can answer your specific questions. And she has office hours this Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Time. And if that doesn't work out for you, you can contact our admissions office and they can help you arrange time to meet with Dom. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Smriti here, who is going to share a little bit more about, oh my goodness. You'd think it was my first time sharing my screen and advancing slides. I'm going to turn it over to Smriti, who's going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of our curriculum.
Thanks, Angela. I think you have a quick happy finger today.
I do.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly talk about some of the courses that our first year MPH students are required to take. So what you see on the table on your left-hand side, those are our 5 courses under what we call foundation sequence. They are 3-credit courses in epidemiology, biostatistics, health behavior and health promotion, environmental health, and health administration and policy. You can think of these courses as like traditional buckets of public health foundational knowledge, and really, like, these courses are designed to build your foundational competencies to enter the public health field. Also, any advanced courses that you are required to take later on in the program, or specialization specific courses that you will take, they're all going to be building on these courses. So that's why we emphasize and actually require first year students to take these courses. Many of them are taken in first semester. The table that you see on the right hand side, these are some additional required courses in the first year, and we call it research methods and research methods sequence, most of these. So everyone takes research methods in their first semester, and then we also require our students to take, wait for it, planning, implementing, and evaluating evidence-based programs and interventions. So it's a very mouthful name for a very, very fun, adventurous, and full of knowledge and skill building class. We all call it lovingly PI. So just, if PI course comes up in any of the future sessions, you know which course we're talking about. In their first year, students also take cross-cutting themes in public health with their entire cohort. So you can imagine it's a huge class. And in this course, we introduce big public health topics such as health disparities, transdisciplinary problem solving, ethics, evidence-based practice, health equity, things like that. And then once the students take these cross-cutting themes, they also take public health seminars, total of 2 credits. And what happens in public health seminars are basically these are small group discussions led by a faculty member. The class size is about 10 to 12 peers. And in these seminars, students really take deep dive into some of the specific, some of the big public health topics that they were introduced in cross-cutting themes. And a lot of the times these discussions involve looking into specific cases. And then in the second semester of year 1, there is usually also room to take some either general or specialization specific elective courses. So you can imagine the first year goes really, really fast. And by the time your first year spring semester starts, we're already talking about your summer activities. So Angela, could you go to the next slide? And then the next one, please. Yep, perfect. So in the summer between first and your second year, students will take 3-credit coursework that will either go towards meeting your program requirement or specialization requirements. So it really depends what courses become available over the summer. The other thing that students will do is they will complete their field work, which we commonly refer to as practicum. And to tell you more about it, I am going to turn it over to our colleague, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you may be wondering, why is field education an essential piece of your preparation for public health practice? Next slide, please. The main reason is that it's really designed for student agency and autonomy, and that students are able to really think about what distinguishes them from by picking their own practicum sites. Our field education experience is designed for student agency and autonomy, and we believe in student self-determination, so all Brown students are able to select their own practicum. Like I mentioned before, we do not place students in practicum, but we do have about 400 plus affiliated practicum sites that students are able to choose from. The Office of Field Education is here for students throughout their entire curriculum from the moment you start at the Brown School to graduation. We are a team of 7 faculty members with different areas of expertise, and we work collaboratively to help set students up for success within practicum. Lastly, and if it's okay, we can go back to the last slide. Field education aims to integrate your curriculum learning with field experience. This can be through your application of theory or use of skills that you learned in your classroom at practicum. For example, you may still take a skills lab that teaches you a certain statistical software and then actually use it in real life in practicum. So just a really unique experience and opportunity, and obviously a little biased, but I think this is one of the best ways to really hone in on what you're interested in the field and understand what that might look like in the real world. All right, what will I do during practicum? All Brown students in the MPH program are required to complete 360 hours of experiential learning. This comes to 3 credits that are part of your program requirements. You may, like we mentioned before, you may choose to complete these hours at a variety of organizations or agencies on your specialization and area of interest. And I will say that this is all a part of our accrediting body as well. So for all Masters of Public Health program, this is the standard across the board. All right, and I'm going to hand it over to my wonderful colleague, Sunghei.
So where will I complete my practicum? I know you're probably curious now. Well, that is really depends. It depends on your special. Oh, so next spot. Yes, thank you. So well, it depends. It depends on your specialization. You may choose to complete your practicum locally within the St. Louis region or nationally. We also have global opportunities available for students in the global health specialization as well. So when Will I complete my practicum? Yes, you see all those curriculum laid it out. And do you see typically MPH students will begin their searching for practicum in the spring semester of their first year, and students will then reach out and interview for practicum throughout the spring semester. And then majority of students will complete their practicum in the summer between their first and second year. So lastly, who will offer support during the practicum process? We have 7 field faculty members with various areas of expertise in the Office of Field Education are here to support your journey. So we work together very closely to ensure our students are set up for success in practicum. So all MPH students are required to take a 3-hour one-time course called Foundational Field Education, which is taught by a field faculty member. This course introduces students to field education, public health practice, and the process of searching for and obtaining practicums. So all students will take this course in the spring semester prior to starting the practicum search.
Okay, thank you so much, Audrey and Sunghei, for giving us overview and details about practicum. And I think if we're all learning something else here that's not curriculum related, it's that don't give me control over the slides, because apparently I can't I can't follow directions very well. So thank you all for bearing with me as I fumble through. So we described the first year of coursework and then practicum, which is typically in that summer in between first and second year. And then this is what typically a second year sequence will look like. So as I mentioned before, all students are required to take 2 transdisciplinary problem solving courses. All students are also required to take 3 of those 1-credit skill labs. And then depending on your specialization, you have electives and specialization required coursework, which kind of varies between specializations. So we won't get into the nitty gritty of all of that right now, but we will definitely prep you for that in the fall in the specialization sessions, and you'll have a academic advisor who can also go over the specifics of those. And then there's also a general MPH elective, which is 2 to 3 credits. Here I go again, my goodness. There we go. And then all students are required to take applied linear modeling. And again, it varies by specialization, which semester you're taking that course. And again, you'll work closely with an academic advisor who can help make sure that you're doing the correct sequencing for your specialization. Those transdisciplinary problem solving courses that I've been talking about, I'll give you a list of some of our recent campus-based TPS courses. So as you can see on this list, we have a wide variety of topics and a wide variety of faculty who are teaching in these areas. So chronic disease, obesity prevention and public health, global hunger and undernutrition, public health and climate change, youth violence prevention, eliminating health disparities, child abuse, maltreatment prevention, and the list goes on. So you can see that we have a wide variety of these courses, and there are some that are not listed here, but a lot of courses that we offer, usually around 5 to 7 different TPS courses every semester. So there's usually a wide variety of options for students to choose from. We do have pre-pandemic, we had some field-based TPS courses. We are hopeful that we will be able to bring these back into our curriculum in the not too distant future, but these are some examples of some courses where students have traveled. All students have the opportunity to apply to get to go on these field-based courses. So as you can see, we had a refugee empowerment course in Berlin, Germany, policy making and advocacy class that is taught in DC, in Washington, DC, a sustainability course in Costa Rica, and a health impact assessment course in Australia. So we loved these field-based courses. Our students loved those, and we're really hopeful that we'll be able to bring those back for you all at some time soon. Then at the end of the program, there are a few additional requirements, curriculum requirements. All MPH students are required to do a capstone. This is an integrative learning experience that really should demonstrate students' synthesis and understanding of both foundational and public health competencies. We do this through a 2-series course, Capstone 1 and Capstone 2. Those are both 1-credit courses. Capstone 1 is a preparation course that really gets students thinking about the type of capstone project that they are going to do. This can come in the form of a grant proposal, a secondary data analysis and research report, a program plan, a program evaluation. And this first part of capstone is the conceptualization of the capstone, what competencies you'll integrate into the capstone, and you come up with a capstone proposal and outline in Capstone 1. And then Capstone 2 is the actual development and assessment of your capstone project. And those are in the last 2 semesters that you're here. And then all students, all MPH students are also required to pass this certified in public health exam, earning CPH credentials. That's kind of our national credentialing exam in public health. And we'll give you all the details that you need to know about that as you join the Brown School later this year. Okay, a little note about our pandemic protocols. Students are wondering, the last couple of years, we've been able to, depending on where we were in the pandemic, we offered courses online. We were offered, offer some of those fully remotely. We've been able to do some hybrid and some in person, depending on where we're at in the pandemic and what our public health protocols call for. Our faculty really did participate in a lot of online curricular training, and most practicums were done remotely during that time. Our focus for the 2022-2023 school year is really to largely shift back to in-person learning. So the predominant course format will be in person. And of course, that will be guided by our public health and university protocols. We're really hoping that we'll be at a place in the pandemic where, we won't have to worry about switching courses to remote. And we know that our teaching and learning really is enhanced and just better overall when we can do it in person. So that's our plan for the fall. Advising and faculty office hours will probably continue to be held virtually because we realize that does offer a lot of flexibility and accessibility for students to meet with us by virtual office hours. And practicum placements will, again, probably be a mix of both in-person, remote, and hybrid. Okay, at the Brown School, we'll talk a little bit about our holistic advising approach. We have 3 tiers of advisors for our students. The first one is academic advisors, and these are the folks who really know the ins and outs of specializations and sequencing of the coursework and the degree requirements. They ensure that you register for the classes you need. They're really well versed on academic support resources at the Brown School and at the university. I can't overemphasize this enough that you should be in relationship with your academic advisor. They are so helpful in getting you the information that you need and helping you get through the program with the correct sequencing of your courses. The second tier of advising is a specialization advisor or faculty advisor, a specialization faculty advisor. And this, you will be assigned an advisor in your second semester, towards the beginning of your second semester in the program. And this is somebody who can, a faculty member who can kind of connect you to classroom experiences, out of classroom opportunities, You can kind of help you think about networking, other opportunities to enrich your experience here. Another thing that your specialization advisor will do is help you with the conceptualization of your capstone project. They actually have to sign off on your capstone project. You have to create a memorandum of understanding with your specialization advisor, so that we know that you have had, you know, some guidance, some mentorship, and helping think through what makes a good capstone project. And then lastly, there I go again. Lastly, we have a field education faculty advisor. So as Audrey and Sunghei were explaining, your field faculty advisor will really support you and help you choose a practicum site and identify your goals for what you want to get out of practicum. I'll also emphasize this again, your field faculty advisor will not place you in a practicum, but they will help you with the search process and guide you through all of the requirements that are needed to help you have a successful practicum experience. My goodness. And they also offer a lot of drop-in hours and field faculty advisor one-on-one meetings. We have tons of support resources for students who are wondering how they do the practicum experience. Okay, I think that brings us, yes, to the end of our presentation. So are there questions? I see some things in the chat. Are there some questions that we can answer here?
Yeah, I've got quite a few questions and I'm happy to jump in and start reading those aloud.
Great.
First is from Basika, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but wondering how the advanced standing MPH curriculum works.
Great, and I'm gonna just stop sharing my screen for a minute so we can all see each other's faces, and then I can reshare them for our last few slides. So advanced standing, it depends how many credits you're coming in with advanced standing. In the MPH program, we have the option right now for students who have a bachelor's degree in public health to apply for advanced standing credit of up to 9 hours. And so those 9 hours can be anything in our foundations curriculum or research methods. So biostats, epidemiology, health behavior, health promotion, health administration and policy, or in environmental health or research methods. And those courses, basically we say you've met the requirement for those courses. And then you can either, depending on how many credits you're coming in with, if you have 9 advanced standing credits, that affords you the opportunity to graduate a semester early. If you do not meet the 9 credits of advanced standing, then you still graduate in the 2-year format, and it just gives you a little bit more opportunity to take courses that you might be interested in, some of the electives or the courses that teach material that's above and beyond what we do in our foundational coursework.
Thanks, Angela. Next question is from Ben, and they're wondering if a math requirement or a math level of competency is needed to take the applied modeling course.
So for applied linear modeling, there is a prerequisite of successfully passing our biostatistics course. And biostatistics you take in your first semester, and you have to earn a B or better to pass biostatistics. But other than that, there is no math competency class. And I will say, in my time of being here, some of the biggest anxiety for MPH students starting in their first semester is this idea of taking biostatistics and epidemiology in the same semester. And I'm just here to tell you, and maybe it's easier for me to say because I teach epidemiology, but we are here to support you through that learning process. Audrey Coolman is actually an alum of our program. She can probably speak to this and verify what I'm saying, but we have so much support, and we really try to make the material really relatable to anybody, no matter what kind of background you came in with. So you might come in, with a bachelor's degree in math, right? So maybe you had a math concentration. And that's more of your thing. Or maybe you've come in with a bachelor's degree in the humanities, which has been not as intense in math and sciences. And we will make that information and those concepts just as easy for you as it is for others. I really do believe in that. And I know our students have a little anxiety about those courses, but we really work to get you through those in a way that is accessible for everybody.
Thanks, Angela. Audrey, I don't know if you wanted to speak a little bit to just what, since you are an alum of the MPH program, kind of what your experience was in some of those courses and advice that you may have for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that totally okay to be nervous and wondering about whether your prereqs will match up, and that the Brown School does a really incredible job of accommodating tons of resources to make sure that you're up to speed. I will say transparently, my biggest hesitancy in applying for my MPH was sort of the math components, which for a lot of you may be reversed, right? You may be coming here specifically for the math pieces. And so I would say that I survived, did very well, and feel that I have a fundamental knowledge to take that with me in order to sort of really do this public health work in the way that it's meant to be. So definitely would encourage you to reach out, but also would say that you will most likely be fine in thinking about some of those prereqs and where you might have come from in the background.
We also have in those courses in epidemiology and biostats in particular, and ALM as well, we have TAs for those courses. So, there's not only the instructor, but there's also TA support. And we also have something at the Brown School called Stat Lab, and that's a peer-to-peer support system for anything statistics. So it can be problem sets in either of those courses. If you need to know how to run a certain statistical method and a certain statistical software, we have students who work in the stat lab that are there to provide that support. And we have master's students and doctoral level students who run that stat lab. And it's such a wonderful resource. So, that's another thing to keep in mind while you're here and to take advantage of.
Great. Thanks, Angela, and thanks, Audrey, for sharing a little of your insights too. The next question is from Will, and they asked, if you do a field-based course, is that equivalent to a semester abroad?
It is equivalent to, it's a 3-credit course. So that is, I guess maybe I need a little clarification on what you mean by semester abroad, but it's, whatever course that you're taking, if it was a field-based course, it's still a 3-credit course that would count towards your curriculum requirements. Usually those courses are in a shortened format. So there are usually some pre-departure sessions where students get together with the faculty, and there, the pre-departure sessions that kind of prep students for what the course is going to be like, what the activities are going to be like whenever they're in the field-based course. And then the actual time away is usually about a week to 10 days. So it's not a semester-long course like our regular campus-based TPS courses are. I hope that answers the question. And let me know if you have more specifics. Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Angela. All right, Valencia asked, will global practicum sites be an option this upcoming year? So our friends from Field Education or Angela or Smriti, do you have any insight on what global practicum is looking like?
I'm going to let Sunghei and Audrey respond to that if they have any insight there.
So Audrey, do you want to go? Oh, so we're working really closely with the global team that about the global practicum site. So it really depends on how actually word and COVID got down and things. But we also have a lot of agency that who actually in St. Louis doing the global work. So, there is a great opportunity and a lot of opportunity to do in the region, but you do the global practicum or global experience.
Yeah, just echoing what Sunghei said, I think the biggest thing too is that, as you heard earlier, our school is really focused on centering health equity. So what that means is that we need to pivot to our communities in the times of need, and specifically right with this endemic that's been ongoing. And then of course, some of the other different worldwide events, it's something that we just have to be conscious of. And unfortunately cannot predict the future, but have ample resources and people who are here to help and figure out a way to make that happen if it is feasible. But again, just really centering equity at that core to ensure that there is opportunity. And then in thinking about some of the ongoing sort of local opportunities, the flip of that is that there is a lot of opportunity to help out in this moment, right? So a lot of our organizations have we've seen over time pivot their work to ensure that the patients, communities, families, individuals that they're serving needs are met, which have changed over time. And also, right, a lot of this is like finding a good fit. So taking your skills and what you might want to be challenged on in a practicum and finding a match within the practicum site, I think is also a really good way for you to think about what is this that I want to do later on in my future, and how can I start this networking process, which is so critical to the public health field.
That's great. Thanks, Audrey, and thanks, Sunghei. Lots of good questions here. Keep them coming all. The next question was from Hannah, and they were wondering if there's a list of electives that they'd be able to take, or course specific to specializations. So I linked into the chat a couple places where you can search course titles and descriptions. There's courses.woostl.edu. If you haven't heard that aloud yet, yes, that is how we say woostl.edu, WUSTL.edu. And then you can also search on the bulletin that has more of the kind of descriptive. You kind of have to sift through both of those sites a little bit, but it has a lot of good information on courses. And then if you're curious about, examples of specialization specific courses, the Brown School website has kind of a smattering of examples for each of the specializations there too. So I'll link that in the chat as well.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I'll say, if you go to course listings, go back a few semesters too and look at, a fall and a spring of last year, maybe to get kind of a full idea of what we covered in an academic year. If you just look right now at fall of your incoming fall, we don't have everything up quite yet for our next academic year. So don't be too alarmed if you go on there and you don't see much. It's a works in progress. But I would suggest, go to fall of 2021 and spring of 2022 and look to see what we covered, what we offered over that academic year.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Angela. Next question is from Masuma. They'd like to know more about the violence and injury prevention and the artificial intelligence certifications. Are those mandatory or not? Are those without charge, or would we pay for those? More info about the certifications.
Yeah, great questions. So those are absolutely optional. There are two different programs that kind of track the progress through those certificate programs. And I can't remember the number of class requirements for the violence and injury prevention certificate off the top of my head, but it's a number of courses that you would use as your electives pretty much. So a number of courses and seminars that you are required to attend to achieve that certificate. The artificial intelligence and big data analytics is about 8 credits of coursework. Those are also courses that would serve as your electives in the program. So if these are things that you want to do, it makes sense to try to plan for that in your first semester to make sure that you get all the requirements in your time. That's not to say that if you start thinking about it in your second semester that it would be impossible, but we always say the earlier the planning for these kinds of things, the easier it is to fit in your time here and to make sure that you hit all those requirements. There's no additional charge for either of those certificates. Like I said, you fit those courses, the required courses for those certificates into the courses that you would be taking anyway. And then whatever additional requirements, like with the violence and injury prevention, it's those extracurricular seminars that you also attend.
Thanks, Angela. Going back, I see that I skipped a question. Sorry, Nandu, I did not mean to skip over your question. It's a good one. Wondering about a transdisciplinary problem solving course in cancer prevention and public health, and if that is an option.
That's a great question. And we don't have a course that is specifically focused on cancer prevention, but the chronic disease and obesity prevention course, has information in there about, the connection between obesity and cancer. So that would be covered in that class. And then what was the other one? My goodness, I'm losing my train of thought. Oh, eliminating health disparities, right? So that could be another place where cancer disparities are focused on in that course. So you would think about how we would address cancer disparities. But there is, and Audrey just put something in the chat.
Yeah, so I am also embedded in the medical campus, and the program for the elimination of cancer disparities is an excellent internal organization that does a lot of community outreach and work and is really connected. And I think this is where one of those pieces where your practicum can really feed into the work that you're interested in and doing that in real life. So if interested, would highly recommend touching base with some of the incredible individuals overseeing this program.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both. That's great. Let's see, going back to my list of questions here. Will asked if, apart from research, do you know of any employment opportunities for students? I can speak a little bit to that and share that there are plenty of part-time work opportunities on campus. Besides research, a lot of opportunities within administrative offices across the Brown School and WashU. There is a job fair that happens usually from career services, though we're kind of shifting our model of career services to be a little bit more university centric, which I think is good news because now our students will have access to career services from across the entire Washington University campus. So a lot of really great resources there that you'll have access to. We also try to do our best in the admissions team to share out opportunities as we hear about them. Sometimes those position opportunities don't come available until later in the spring, summer, sometimes even right before the fall semester starts. So be patient, but know that there are opportunities out there. And I'll link in the chat to where we do list some of those campus-based opportunities if you're curious about what's available now. Right, next question. It looks like we're doing okay on time. Hannah asked, what ways can we focus in on specific interests throughout our studies? For example, I'm interested in food security and equitable food systems.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say, a couple of different ways, but, trying to also look into faculty who are focused in that area, and two in particular that come to mind are Laura Iannotti and Joe Steensma, who are both, working in different places across the world, thinking about sustainable food systems and also food equity. So I would say, reach out to faculty who are working in those areas to start, networking and looking for opportunities in there. And then also, when you have, you could look for like Laura's course on global hunger and undernutrition also focuses on food security. So looking for courses that might fit that specific interest. But then also when you're thinking about practicum and capstone, those are two places where you can really kind of focus in or look for organizations that focus in on your specific interest areas. Your capstone project, you can develop something that would be, really specific to food security and sustainable food practices. We also have other faculty across campus, not just here at the Brown School, that are working on those things. So I'm thinking of my colleague Scott Krummenacher in environmental studies. He focuses on environmental justice and urban food systems. So looking outside of the Brown School too are other ways to get connected to your specific areas of interest.
Perfect. Thanks, Angela. So Ben asked about the financial services form that was linked in the chat earlier to sign up for a slot, and there are no more options available, which means that they probably got all filled up. Not to worry though, I shared in the chat, if you want to reach out to us at Brown Admissions, we would be happy to connect you with financial services and see about finding another time if no other times are available this Friday. All right. Another good question from Joshua, and it kind of speaks a little bit to what you were just sharing, Angela, but wants to know if you could talk about cross-learning with other departments of the Brown School and outside of it. There's a two-part question, so I'll start with that one. Cross-learning with other departments of the Brown School and outside of the Brown School.
Sure. Yeah, so within the Brown School, you have the opportunity to take courses that are listed as social policy or social work courses. Again, like I said, I can't emphasize this enough, to work closely with your academic advisor on what makes the most sense for your trajectory and your sequencing. But there are courses that you could take in social policy or social work that would count either towards your specialization electives or your MPH elective. Students also at the Brown School, it's 52 credit hours is the minimum for graduation, but you have room in your tuition structure to take up to 58 credits. So even if you've met all of your curriculum requirements for graduation, you still have those 6 kind of, free, I would say, I don't want to say free, but flexible credits that you could take, those courses in those other programs. And then also courses outside of the Brown School are open to you as well. Of course, there are some limitations depending on the other program, if they have room to take students from other schools. If you want to use those for specialization electives or for program electives, then we have an elective approval process that you go through. So you submit a form that explains what the course is that you want to take, why you want to take it, et cetera, and we'll look at it and likely approve it if it makes sense for your degree. So there's a lot of opportunity there, either within the Brown School or outside of the Brown School. We don't really have any control over the scheduling of courses outside of the Brown School or the format. So sometimes students want to take a course in another school, but their scheduling just doesn't work very well with the Brown School scheduling. So that sometimes is an unfortunate barrier, but it's definitely something to look into. And we do have students who will take electives from time to time at the School of Medicine or the Olin Business School or the law school. In particular, at the law school, they have an interdisciplinary environmental law clinic, and we get students from both public health and social work that'll join that interdisciplinary clinic, and they're working on actual environmental justice cases here in the St. Louis region.
Great. Thanks, Angela.
Sure.
We have about 5 minutes left, so I'll ask the second part of Joshua's question, which is if you could give examples of subspecializations that are available within the field of epidemiology. I apologize, I'm getting a call right now. In any specialization in the field of genetics or cardiovascular diseases, that sort of thing.
Sure. So, within epidemiology, I mean, so here at the Brown School, our specialization is epidemiology and biostatistics, but we don't offer necessarily any subspecializations, but there are courses that you might be interested in. So there is a genetic epidemiology course that we partner, I don't want to say partner, but we kind of cross list in between us and the med school. So again, it's a med school course that you can take as part of your program here. We are other courses that are epidemiology focused that are kind of, subfields, as we have a mental and behavioral health epidemiology course. We have a social epidemiology course. Within epidemiology, you might want to focus on infectious or chronic disease epidemiology. And again, we can try to connect you to coursework and opportunities here at WashU that could meet those interests. But we say with epidemiology, I mean, most areas of public health are using epidemiology. I did a lot of occupational epidemiology in my doctoral program. So it really is a tool that can be used in all areas of public health. And we can try to connect you to people on campus that are working in those different areas or teaching those different courses.
Thanks, Angela. I think we do have time for maybe one or two more questions, so I'll try to get these in. And if I don't get to your question, please reach out to us. I know that everyone here is so willing to connect. So please let us know if there are questions that we don't get to. Cheney wanted to know though, and I love this question, if there are any Brown School professors working specifically in the area of women's health.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a great question. I love all these questions. You all have such really wonderful questions, and they're all getting me, getting my synapses going and thinking. But we do have quite a few faculty who are working in this area, particularly. I want to pay a particular focus to Lindsay Stark, who is our Associate Dean for Global Programs. And she really focuses more on women and children in humanitarian settings. So how do we protect, most vulnerable populations from violence, gender-based violence in, refugee settings or migrant settings. So thank you for putting Lindsay's information there. So Lindsay Stark works in that area. Jessica Levy is the chair for our global health specialization, and she works on gender norms and how those impact public health, also global reproductive health. So thinking about reproductive health and also how that relates to gender norms. Laura Iannotti, who I mentioned earlier, works on maternal and child nutrition. So really her approach is how to get women and children proper nutrition, especially children in their first 1,000 days of life, but also how to support those who are pregnant and getting them proper nutrition. Just trying to think of who else is maternal and child health.
I think Teresa Howell is also.
Teresa Howell, that's right. She is social work faculty, but is really focused on Black maternal health and Black maternal health outcomes. So she is a great resource as well. And I just thought of somebody else and my mind is blanking on that one too. But lots of faculty and I was gonna say maybe just also link the faculty page, but it looks like that's what you're doing here in the chat is their faculty pages. So looking through our faculty, I wanted to talk about Kim Twee Seelinger, who is the director of our Center for Human Rights and Migration. And she also focuses on more sexual violence, but preventing sexual violence in conflict and times of war. So also somebody who really focuses on gender-based violence. We are right at 12. So Sarah, what would you like us to do? Do you want us to share the screen for what's next?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, Angela, Smriti, Sunghei, Audrey, Jonesy, and Audrey from admissions for being here. And really a huge thank you to all of the admitted students who joined us today, this morning / afternoon, depending on where you are. Here's a glance at what's coming up this afternoon and evening. We have concurrent sessions happening. So you can choose one of the three. And then at 6 p.m. Central Time, student ambassador office hours. And at 7 p.m. Central Time, the MSP curriculum and field education overview if you're curious at all about Master of Social Policy dual degree option. With that, I will go ahead and say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all these wonderful questions. And we hope to see you all at the Brown School this fall.
Yes, thank you all so much. And please do reach out if you have additional questions. Thank you. Take care.